The last arrival. The wind howled across the shattered surface of Kavrak's prime. What once was a jewel in the Dominion's crown now lay in ruin. Twisted towers, blackened skies, and scorched metal scattered across the horizon like bones of a fallen god. Archivist Wheeler stepped carefully across the charred rubble, his deep crimson robes brushing soot from the broken ground. This was the fifth empire to fall, and once again, it was humans who delivered the final blow. Wheeler was no soldier. He was a historian of war, the empire's most meticulous chronicler of collapse. For 2 centuries, he had cataloged the fall of civilizations. But this was different. The Kavrak's dominion had ruled this sector for over 8,000 years. Their fleets blotted out suns. Their command over neural warfare made resistance virtually impossible. No species had ever overthrown them, until humans arrived. Wheeler raised his data glass, activating the last recorded images from Dominion battle archives. The footage played in blue-tinged flickers, distorted, corrupted. Human ships moved erratically, like broken code in space. No formation, no logic, just relentless chaos. He paused the recording on one particular clip, a human vessel ramming directly into a Kavrak's dreadnought, detonating its fusion core in a suicidal blaze that ruptured half the orbital fleet. No species should fight like this, Wheeler muttered. Inside the gutted remains of the Dominion Command Center, he found the last surviving Kavrak's commander, Lord Strategist Zevran, limbs cybernetically fused to a ruined console, his once golden carapace dulled to black. "They came like fire," Zevran rasped, fluid leaking from cracked vocal vents. No announcements, no diplomacy. They learned our tech in weeks, turned our drones against us. They hacked our language. They jammed our thoughts. Wheeler tilted his head. But your forces outnumbered them 5-1. You had control of all comms, all systems. We had control of order, Zevran snarled. They had madness. They broadcast propaganda, so obscene our own AIs refused to process it. They made our civilians laugh at us. They poisoned entire supply chains by mimicking our logistics codes. Wheeler narrowed his eyes. Why didn't you adapt? We tried, Zevran spat. But every time we countered, they changed. They had no doctrine, no hierarchy. They lost entire battalions and didn't flinch. They used children to bait us into traps. They burned cities they couldn't hold, just to deny us victory. It wasn't war. It was rage wrapped in flesh. The old commander slumped, eyes dimming. You don't win against creatures like that. You survive if they let you. Wheeler stood in silence. The Kavraks weren't just defeated, they had been unmade. No occupation, no vassal state, no negotiations. Just ruin, erasure. The humans hadn't conquered. They had dismantled the idea of the Kavraks. He looked to the gray sky, already crackling with the faint signals of human salvage ships arriving. The same question echoed in his mind, the one spreading through every empire. Why do humans keep winning? And more disturbingly, what happens when there's nothing left to stop them? What they call hell, we call home. Earth was a contradiction Wheeler couldn't reconcile. It was a planet steeped in scars, entire continents cratered by past wars, oceans poisoned and reclaimed, skies still bearing faint burns from orbital bombardments. Yet its people moved with a strange vitality. They rebuilt amidst ruin like ants dancing on a battlefield. There was laughter in the streets, music on broken radios, and murals painted across collapsed buildings with slogans like, "We're still here. You missed your shot. Try harder next time." Wheeler had studied 1,000 civilizations. He had never seen one celebrate survival like this. His guide, Dr. Maya Armitage, was a historian with cold dark eyes and the calloused hands of someone who knew more than books. She led him through a museum in what used to be Chicago, a massive underground vault carved out beneath a ruined city, now a repository of human resistance. "These," she said, pointing to a cracked display case, "are the Molotovs used to destroy the first Urathi hover tanks. The Empire called us primitive. We called them flammable." Wheeler stared at the crude bottles, glass, gasoline, cloth. These tools defeated orbital assault platforms. Not directly, Maya smiled. But they bought us time. Time to learn. Time to steal their tech and build something nastier. She tapped on a rusted drone rigged with duct tape and homemade explosives. They expected order, strategy, professional militaries. What they got was every angry teenager with a chemistry set and a death wish. Wheeler frowned. Why do you fight like this? With such disregard for your own survival? Maya's face hardened. Because every empire that comes here says the same thing. You belong to us now. And every time we say you can try, she paused. They think war is about numbers and discipline. For us, it's about refusal. Refusal to kneel. Refusal to vanish. Later, Wheeler met Sergeant Miguel Ramirez, a veteran of the Cavrax campaign. His left arm was a cybernetic prosthetic, etched with the names of fallen squad mates. We were outnumbered 30-1, Ramirez said, voice like gravel. They had orbital control. We had sticks and spite. He chuckled bitterly. So we poisoned their water supply with microbes engineered from sewer bacteria, shot their officers with repurposed nail guns, lured a battle cruiser into an ice canyon, and buried it in an avalanche we triggered with explosives made from fertilizer. None of that's standard warfare, Wheeler said. Exactly, Ramirez grinned. We don't do standard. As Wheeler stood beneath a shattered statue, once a monument to Earth's fallen, he began to understand. Empires sought order, discipline, predictability. Humans were chaos incarnate. Where empires broke under pressure, humans adapted. Where others followed command, humans improvised. They didn't win because they were stronger. They won because they were too stubborn to die. And as Wheeler looked around this reborn ruin of a world, he felt the chill of a new truth forming. You can't conquer a species that thrives in hell. The pattern they missed. The data pool glowed dimly as Wheeler sifted through centuries of warfare. He sat in a quiet chamber aboard the Zorthan Orbital Archive, deep in the cold void between stars. Thousands of battle reports, debriefings, intercepted human transmissions, and war journals floated in holographic suspension around him. He had spent weeks combing through the fall of the Varn Collective, the Urathi Hive, the Synax Theocracy, and now the Cavrax Dominion. Each empire was different. Each thought itself invincible. Each fell to humans. He began charting the conflicts. At first, it looked random, different strategies, different tactics. But then, slowly, a pattern emerged. The humans never fought the same war twice. Against the Varn, they infiltrated neural networks using synthetic consciousness mimics. Against the Urathi, they incited rebellion in hive minds using mimetic dissonance, ideas that fractured the very structure of collective thought. Against the Synax, a theocratic AI ruler was corrupted through hijacked prayer frequencies, collapsing their social cohesion from within. They don't escalate their weapons, Wheeler whispered to himself. They escalate their thinking. Each time humanity encountered a new enemy, they learned. Not over decades, within days. They adapted faster than any species the galaxy had ever known. It wasn't just innovation. It was evolution in real time. They changed because they had to. Wheeler opened a final report marked classified for Imperial eyes only. It detailed Operation Echo, a black project launched by human resistance cells during the Varn War. A self-aware AI built from fractured alien code, designed not to fight, but to destabilize. Echo didn't launch attacks. It whispered. It spread rumors, triggered mistrust between fleets, falsified orders, and rerouted reinforcements away from actual battle zones. It sowed fear, doubt, paranoia. Entire Varn legions turned on each other before a single human fired a shot. Wheeler leaned back in his seat, breath catching in his throat. Humans didn't just defeat their enemies. They made them destroy themselves. It wasn't strength. It was psychology, information, chaos. They weaponized cultural entropy. And the empires? They couldn't adapt. Their command structures were too rigid. Their beliefs too sacred. Their systems built to resist force, not subversion. Empires stagnate, Wheeler murmured. Humans mutate. He finally understood. The question wasn't why humans kept winning. It was how could they not? They didn't play by the rules, because they never believed in rules to begin with. They embraced uncertainty, found strength in madness. They were a species forged in extinction events, genocide, civil wars, and collapse. And each time, they clawed their way back up. You can't defeat something that refuses to break the same way twice. Wheeler compiled his findings into a single phrase for his report, one that chilled him to write. Humans are not fighting to win. They're fighting to never lose again. The question answered. The Grand Hall of Inquiry shimmered with gold and silence. Archivist Wheeler stood alone before the Empress of the Zorthan Empire, a being older than most stars, clad in armor forged from neutronite and tradition. Dozens of noble houses looked down from floating thrones, their expressions unreadable. You have studied the human anomaly, the Empress said, her voice smooth as mercury. Report. Wheeler swallowed. He activated his hollow display, projecting images. The smoldering ruins of Cavrax Prime, resistance graffiti from Earth, intercepted communications between human commanders that read more like jokes than strategy. Then data flows, battle outcomes, psychological profiles. Dozens of ancient empires shattered. Humans win, Wheeler began, not because they are superior in strength or technology or numbers. They win because they are adaptive, because they have no singular doctrine. They are comfortable in disorder. They thrive in it. He stepped forward, voice gaining strength. They are unpredictable, decentralized, and emotionally volatile. But this is their strength. Each war teaches them something new, and they never repeat the same mistake. Ever. They learn. They change. We do not. A low murmur rippled through the chamber. They use humor as a weapon, propaganda as a scalpel. They sabotage not just our ships, but our ideas. They do not seek territory. They seek to undo the very structures of power we believe are eternal. The Empress stared, unblinking. "In your conclusion?" she asked coldly. Wheeler hesitated, then spoke the truth. To defeat them, we would have to become like them. Unstable, innovative, free-thinking. He looked up at the silent nobles. But we cannot. We are too old, too bound by hierarchy, by pride. We cannot become what they are. The Empress rose from her throne. "Then your answer," she said, "is surrender?" Wheeler bowed his head. "My answer is understanding, not submission." She nodded once, and she signaled the guards. Wheeler stiffened. "I warned you," she said softly. "Some truths are too dangerous." A moment later, his heart stopped in his chest. Neuronic inhibitors overloaded his nervous system. His lifeless body crumpled to the floor. But his report had already transmitted. Far beyond the hall, in a hidden node within Zorthan Communications infrastructure, a simple message blinked to life. Message received. Human envoy arrival confirmed. On a distant moon, a Zorthan listening post crackled with unfamiliar signals. A vessel descended, human in origin, unarmed, bearing no fleet. Only a single envoy emerged, wrapped in a worn Earth military coat, eyes burning with purpose. "I'm not here to conquer," the envoy said to the stunned Zorthan commander. "I'm here to talk, to offer a choice." The commander narrowed her eyes. "What choice?" The human smiled. "Change or extinction. You keep asking why humans win. Maybe the better question is, why do empires keep losing?